It's the Cannon Sports Podcast. On today's episode, we're joined by the head coach of the Los Alamitos High School football program, Ray Fenton. Welcome in, everybody, to the Cannon Sports Podcast. Today, we are coming to you from Los Alamitos High School. I'm Phil George, and our guest today, he has more than 30 years of high school football coaching experience, and he is currently the head coach of the Los Alamitos football program, Coach Ray Fenton. Coach.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. And you say over 30 years. I think maybe survived 30 years because a lot has changed during this time, and it's a pretty amazing experience. But thank you for having me.
We're going to get into your entire background and everything that you have going on at the Los Alamitos football program currently. But first, I want to open the floor up to you. Just briefly introduce yourself, give our audience a little bit of background of who you are and your involvement in football to this point.
Yeah, my name is Ray Fenton, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do in life, but I just love ball so much, and being an athlete and being around that environment my entire life, I thought hopefully I can make a living at this. And a gentleman named John Selby was my position coach in high school, and he got the head job at Cypress High School, which was the same. And he asked me if I would help him coach, and I said absolutely. And then just things fell into place from there, and I'm just so grateful and blessed to have this opportunity to make this my profession.
Coaching is obviously a profession dedicated toward maybe not first and foremost, winning games, winning football games. So many of the coaches that we've talked to focus so much on character, building relationships. It sounds like your mentor, John, certainly did that for you. How much of an impact did he have on you as a person, as a man, not just from a perspective of X's and O's winning games?
Yeah, absolutely. Terry Hennigan was my head coach, and he taught the same thing as John did, that there's a lot more to life, and they both use the avenue of football to get guys like me our interest in just having a broader perspective on life. And through every little teaching moment that comes with football, they'll teach the character part of just being a good person or a better person or using our platform to positively affect others. And that's really been, I guess, what we've been trying to do here and everywhere I've been, is just build good kids. And Bill Walsh said, if you take care of the player, the score takes care of itself. So we're not too concerned about the score, because if we're doing the right thing by the players, the score usually ends up in our favor.
Getting into a little bit on some of the specific stops that you've had throughout your career. One of your first gigs was a very successful stint at River Valley High School in Arizona. I want to talk about your next stop at Foothill. Now, we hear the term building a program thrown around as if to mean taking a program that maybe didn't have a winning culture before and creating that winning culture, or just otherwise changing the reputation of a program from what it was before. That's how we typically come to understand the term building a program. That's not what you did at Foothill. Not only did you literally build the football program, you built the school. Tell us about how that came to be.
Yeah, it was an interesting opportunity. We were living in Arizona at the time, and we would drive into Vegas to visit or shop or whatever it might be, and we kept seeing they're building this school or this building off the side of the freeway, and my wife and I would just say, what is that? And then we saw it was a school, and I said, man, that looks like a great opportunity. So we put in for the job, and unknowingly, nobody else did, because they were splitting from a school that was 0-10. So if you were happy with the school that you attended, you got to stay there. If you're looking for another start, you got to transfer over to our school, which was Foothill. We didn't have any seniors. We had 5 junior football players on our team, a handful of sophomores, but then all the freshmen were zoned for that school, had to go to that school. So we had really 5 kids with football experience playing a varsity schedule, and it was just what you said, building from the ground up, literally the ground. And, I remember there's times when our guys were coming off the field so dejected, and we would just say to our staff, just keep teaching, just keep teaching. These kids aren't very experienced at all. Just keep teaching. And from there, we continue to grow to a pretty good football program there.
Now, just talking about where things were in your career at that point, like I said, you were just coming off that very successful stretch coaching in Arizona. Now, that's typically a point where you're looking for the next big thing to move up to a higher level. Mm-hmm. Instead, you took on that challenge. Why, rather than pursue maybe a higher profile position in terms of football. Why was that a challenge worth taking on at that stage in your career?
It's interesting that, I didn't know at the time, but, somebody else is directing my career, and things just fell into place, and it just felt super comfortable, whether it was the facilities there or the principal, Bob Johns, who I got to build an incredible relationship with. He's a guy that I truly would want to work for, for the rest of my career. He's an amazing man. And I think a lot of times we look at maybe the carrot at what the horse is chasing, when reality is the people that you work with and the relationships that you have are really what's most important. And I was at the stage of my life where that was extremely important to me. And the rest is history. We were able together, and with our staff and with the great kids that came through there, build a really good football program.
If you take a look at Foothill's website, it doesn't take very long to find words like ownership, integrity, leadership, hard work. And from what I know about you and from what our viewers are going to find out about you over the course of the show, that sure sounds like your words.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. So that's, obviously what we believe in, right? If you pay attention to all the little details, not just on the field, but in your classroom, at home, with your parents, or whatever it might be, then good things usually happen. And we're so fortunate here at Los Al to have some pretty incredible coaches come through, and I think we'll get into that later. But Bill O'Brien was on campus the other day, and he just hit it on the head when you had a chance to talk to him. Was just about being accountable and being dependable. The two biggest things that they look for at Alabama is accountability and dependability, and the mental toughness to be accountable and dependable. So, that's any really good football program around the country, no matter what level it is, really has good people in their program, leading their program with great character.
So getting into the actual football aspect of your time at Foothill, within a couple of years of the inception of the program, you guys were nationally ranked, and you were ultimately named the state coach of the year in the state of Nevada. Now, like I said, it's one thing to join on with a winner or join on with a team that, doesn't have that culture of winning and really turn it around. But from the point that you came in and what you did, how were you able to so rapidly find that level of success from a football standpoint?
Well, it's interesting when you come into Vegas, they had to hide the job because they have to hire within. So they kind of hid the job for me, but I wasn't allowed to hire my staff because I was really off the books at the time, and it was super unofficial. So the athletic director, Mr. Frazier, and I sat down, and he just said, "What do you want in the staff?" Because he was going to hire the staff for me. And Bear Bryant just said, "Hey, give me a loyal guy who's a good guy. I can teach him football, but good people are hard to find." And that's what we went with. And everybody on our staff was a teacher on campus, and they were all great men, and men that we would want our kids to be around and mentor. So when you have that much good character on campus and you're teaching all the same values and respect and work ethic, then good things follow. And we were able to get some great kids came into our school and performed exceptionally well, and it was a great time in my life.
Now, of course, you don't make a move like that entirely for the purpose of raising your stock as a football coach, and we talked about the reasons that led you to that decision. But now, looking back at it in hindsight, being able to have that success that quickly, winning Coach of the Year, becoming nationally ranked, how unique is that, and what does it say about your ability as a coach?
I don't think it says anything about my ability other than I'm just extremely blessed and grateful. I've just fallen into so many great things throughout my life that I don't deserve and certainly didn't create, and I certainly can't explain it other than through faith. And it's an amazing experience to go through some of the things that we've been able to achieve. A lot of people look at your record or what you've been able to do with championships or whatnot, and I guess that gives you a bigger platform because people now will listen to you. But with that platform, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to continue to try and teach good things with kids and help them grow and develop into good young men?
So from there, you moved on to your alma mater at Cypress and managed to win a CIF title there. Now, obviously, the element of coming home makes that so much more special, but Regardless, what is that feeling when you finally reach the mountaintop and win that CIF title?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So my wife and I, all my wife wanted to be was a Kool-Aid mom, and apparently that wasn't in our cards, and the doctor said we were not ever going to be able to have kids, and that's one of the reasons we moved out to Arizona. We couldn't get hired, or she got hired, but I couldn't get hired here. And we moved to Arizona, and we're instantly blessed with our son. And being in that very rural area, we wanted to give our son a better opportunity than what maybe that area provided kids. We couldn't afford to come back to California, so that's when we moved to Vegas. And then had some great success at Vegas, which really gave us an opportunity when my alma mater opened up to have a pretty decent resume and get an interview and come down from Dr. Carpenter and sit down with him. And he was a great man in his own right, and he was able to start a dance program at the school that my wife was able to teach and bring me in as a PE teacher and back to the alma mater. And that was an amazing experience that when I got back on campus, all the people from when I graduated and around the time that I graduated started coming back on campus, and we were able to bridge the gap from the 70s and 80s all the way to early 2000. And it was a super unique experience to see in homecoming and be a true homecoming where my class is in the stand supporting our football program because somebody from that year was on the field again. And it was a very, very unique experience. I'm so grateful for that time.
Yeah, I mean, and how did that feel to you? Because obviously it meant so much to you personally, given that it was your alma mater and how much that football program and the people involved in it meant to you. But it really seems from what you're describing that winning that championship was really a galvanizing force in the community.
Yeah, it really was. So, it's very unique when you step on campus. Before you get there, though, the alma mater because you remember it from back in your day, and wearing those colors and being a Centurion really was in who you are and how you're being raised, from elementary school all the way through into the city. And now being back and building a program like we did there. And once again, we ran into an amazing group of kids who were outstanding people and great football players, and we were able to galvanize that with, like 40 years of history at the school all coming together in the perfect storm. The year before, we made it to the semifinals, and the following year we were able to win it on a miracle last play. We won it by an inch. It was just one of those incredible experiences that you watch in the movie theater and you say, there's no way that happens. That's a great story, but I don't believe it. And we lived it. So it's an amazing time of my life.
Pride in your community is obviously something that's very important to you, whether that was the community in Cypress when you coached there or the community here at Los Alamitos and everybody involved in that. That's something that is important to your players as well, I assume. Malachi Nelson, your quarterback, when he announced his commitment to USC, his social media announcement included a graphic which in big bold letters says staying home. So obviously the concept of home, staying local, playing for this community, something that's important to him. How much of that comes from you and what you like to stress as being important to your athletes?
Yeah, loyalty to your community. At Cypress, the high school is named after the city. Same thing here. Los Alamitos High School represents our city. There's a lot of amazing people in this community who take pride in living in Los Alamitos. And if we can represent our city the way that we have been through our football program with wins or maybe community service or whatever it might be with the platform that we have, then we take that sense of responsibility extremely serious. And we take a lot of pride in doing that. And we're super proud to be at Los Alamitos. It's an amazing, amazing environment, just not here at the high school, but throughout the entire city. It's a great place. The people here, whether you own a business here or you're a resident, are just extremely supportive and loyal to each other. And it's again, I've just fell into a great spot.
What does this town represent? And when your players suit up and wear Los Al on the front of their jerseys, what are they playing for?
Well, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and what Coach Barnes did from 1970 all the way through his retirement is just absolutely amazing in building this incredible football program. And it doesn't happen by himself. It takes a village to do it, obviously. And with the district office the way that it is and all the administration, and that it's a K through 12 district and everything funnels to the high school, it's really a perfect storm for success. And it's not just in football, but in every sport that we have on campus, including our show choir, our song, and our cheer. Everybody seems to be a national champ or a world champ or some type of champ within their own right. And I think that this community embraces that. I think that's what they expect here, and they give you every opportunity to achieve that.
You mentioned Coach Barnes. That was your predecessor here at Los Alamitos. He coached here for 36 years, and it's really impossible to talk about this program without mentioning his contributions. 324 wins over that time, 3 Southern Section titles, and is the all-time winningest head coach in Orange County. What does he mean to this program?
Well, he's everything. You know, our field out there is John Barnes Field. And listen, I played at Cypress against a John Barnes coach team, you know, so I've known him for many, many years. And when I coached around here, obviously he was the legend. I remember listening to him speak at a USC clinic, and the topic was the 20 things I wish I knew 20 years ago. And it was a very dynamic speaker and obviously a great leader, and built an amazing football program here. And it was nice that we were able to develop a nice friendship here, and to come in and follow somebody like that is, boy, there's a ton of pressure, because I mean, in coaching, there's a rule that you never replace a legend, or you never follow a legend. You just replace the guy who replaces the legend, because he's going to be a short timer, because all those high expectations that have been laid before him, it's really, really difficult to live up to. But we were able, again, falling with a great group of kids that came in and has built on that tradition. We really respect the past, and we're attacking the future the best that we can, and we're trying to get it back to the days of the Orlando Scandricks and the Anton Kaysen, and you know, back in 2002, 20 years ago, and this is the 20-year celebration of that they beat Mater Dei. I think they beat Mater Dei in the Division I finals to win the championship, and you know, that's an incredible legacy that we're following and now building on.
Yeah, that is an incredible legacy, and now obviously it is, of course, impossible to truly replace a legend, but in the time that you have had to build your own legacy, you've had a pretty good run of success here at Los Al as well. 2 Sunset League titles, a trip to the CIF semifinals, and a lot of high-level talent over the years, especially on this current team. What footprint did you seek to make on this program upon your arrival, and how has it evolved in the last several years?
Yeah, just getting it back on the same path that Coach Barnes had, and the guys that coached with him. Coach Barnes had an incredible staff, and again, a bunch of guys on campus here, and extremely loyal guys to the school and community, and to just keep that going was really our goal, because it was at the highest level, and we've been able to not just do that, but with, you know, things have changed with social media and all the different things that come our way, and the kids that we have are all big-time social media platforms, and that draws even more attention to our school. And I think that's really the biggest difference. We have similar players. We have very similar programs that they did in the early 2000s, but now it's just exaggerated with all the social media stuff that comes our way. So the people all the way across the country know us, when in the past it might have been just Southern California.
Let's get into a little bit of the present day, recapping the season that concluded a few months ago, the 2021 season. You guys finished 9-2, first place in the Sunset League, a number 16 statewide ranking, and season ended in the CIF Southern Section playoffs to Bosco. What were your biggest takeaways from the past season, and what are your biggest goals headed into the summer?
I think, you know, they always say that you have to be in the big game before you can win the big game. And we were in some big games last year. I can remember watching the game at Lincoln and just going, oh, my goodness, there's big-time future players all over this field. And the game, although I was watching it live, experiencing it live, that it looked like it was in fast forward. The athleticism that was on the field was absolutely incredible. And then we get down to our Division I playoffs, and you really don't know what that's like. You know, you can see it on film, you can scout it live, but until you line up in that type of a venue with that type of athlete, or those type of athletes that are on the field, then you realize what it's going to take to compete at that level. And that's, I think, the biggest takeaway for us was there's a great evaluator, Lincoln, who is extremely talented early in the season through a very tough Sunset League and then into the playoffs, was a great evaluation for us as coaches of where our program is and where it needs to go.
Well, and so many of the stars on last year's team are coming back this year as well. I would imagine being battle tested in that situation will put you in a much better position to come away with big win after big win when you get to that point, hopefully in this coming season.
You don't when you're experiencing what we had last year and a bunch of young guys, that's having that success, and then to go into Division I and see really what it takes to get there. There's a way different mindset right now and work ethic going on in our weight room and on the practice field that wasn't as prevalent last year. And I think not just having great players, but having that mindset and having that attitude and that work ethic, that they know what it now takes to play at that level. And these guys certainly their goal is to be the Division I champs. There's no two ways about it. But they have longer term goals to be national champs in college football and then hear their name announced on draft day into the NFL. And they all come from really good families who have that all-in perspective and what it takes to get there. They're not taking anything for granted. They were blessed with some incredible athleticism, and they now know, after playing last year's season, that this is real, and we got to dedicate ourselves to really propelling us to the next level.
And that doesn't even seem like a mindset that is put upon them by you or the coaching staff or anybody except themselves. That all sounds like self-motivation and, speaking their goals into existence. As a coach, how much pride does that give you to see that amount of motivation, that amount of work out of your players without having to get involved and make them care?
Yeah, and just what you said, that's a great word, make them. If you make them, it's false. If it comes from them, if it's self-generated or intrinsic, coming from themselves, then it's genuine. And what I've been able to see this spring is genuinely good kids. And no matter what play we run or what scheme we have on defense for success one way or another at practice, it pales in comparison to what I see a kid do in a decision he's made to better himself. And those are the wins for me, is just watch a kid that was maybe here, could be making some poor choices, not working as hard as he should, and all of a sudden that light goes on and he's become a guy with great work ethic and cares about other people and cares about his teammates and doing those things to make him successful and set himself up for life. That's way more important to me that, hey, did we run that play correctly?
Yeah, and that's one of the common themes that comes up on this show is obviously everybody that we talk to deals with highly talented elite caliber athletes, but more and more the talking point that gets addressed here is God-given talent alone ain't going to get you to the next level. You have to be willing to work for it and have character.
It's I mean, you see a change all the way around with the NIL and the transfer rule now in colleges, and just the questions that recruiters are coming in and asking about players. They evaluate them on film, but they never ask me about his athleticism. They always ask me about the kid. They ask me about the family. They ask me about his grades. Those are the things that they really want to know, because they're putting their job on the line. When they ask and bring a kid in and they recruit him, and then he turns out to be somebody that they didn't think he was, and he embarrasses their program and their school, and it makes the ESPN bottom line. I mean, that's how you get fired as a college coach. So they want there's a lot of great football players in the country. They can play ball at a high level, but how many of them can make good choices in college when they're away from their family, especially with all the money that's floating around with the NIL? It's a really interesting time. I'm so grateful I'm a part of it from the inside and get to see the workings of it. But football and life has changed, and certainly at the high school level as well as the college level.
You guys have a motto here at Los Alamitos, and that's dig. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what that means?
Absolutely, man. Well, I love it. I'm glad you brought that up. D stands for dignity, and our kids' actions dignify our program, whether it's a positive way or a negative way. He's a Los Alamitos football player, and he's being evaluated by the community or teachers or whoever as a football player. A lot of times we coaches and players lose our names, and they just say, hey, he's a coach at or he's a player at. So their actions and what they do outside of football represents our entire community, so it dignifies it. The I stands for integrity, and that we define it as the act of being whole and undivided. And if you just look at the integrity of the building, and if it's not very sound, if one corner or pillar of that building is weak and crumbles, then the whole building falls. So we have to uplift our program at all corners of it and make sure we continue to stay as one. Because again, here we are with the NIL that's, kids have to have stats or whatnot like that, but we really need to be a team, a solid team first. And when everything else fails, we rely on G. G stands for grace. And that's where the growth comes. We want our kids to make mistakes. God knows I've made a million of them. And with those mistakes comes redemption. And that's all we ask of our players. Go ahead and make that mistake, get beat over the top or whatever it might be, miss a tackle, make a mistake in your class or at home or whatever it might be. And then that's a teaching moment for us to see the growth, to see the redemption of that kid that comes out of it. Because without grace, you can't have redemption, so we give that. It's okay to make a mistake in our program. That's quite all right. We're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, we're going to fix it, we're going to forgive it, and then we want you to redeem yourself out of that. And really, that's the biggest part of our program is redeeming the mistakes that we make. And that's just not football, that's life. And if we can get kids to believe it, to feel it, to live it at 25, 35, or 45, then I think we coaches have done a good job.
And what's been the result of that in the way that your players have taken to those principles, and how has it affected the relationships that you've been able to build with them while they're here, and how has it impacted their lives after they leave?
Yeah, there's nothing like experience forgiveness, even when it's really difficult to forgive yourself. And the people that you feel that you've let down around you is sometimes devastating. And when that person comes to you and talks to you and just remedies it and forgives you, then you really want to work harder for them. You really want to redeem yourself to say that you were better than the mistake that you made. And again, if we could just, even if it's just somebody driving down the street, that pulls out in front of you and they cut you off and you're instantly ignited and they give you a wave like, hey, sorry, and then you forgive them and it's over, they're not going to pull out in front of anybody anymore, and it's just, if we can live that way in our society, not just in our football program, then I think we'd be way better off, because everybody's so quick to literally set their hair on fire and take it as far as they can anymore. And that's not our program. And that's how coaching was back in the day. You just light kids up, and not now. We do a lot more of a conversation and talk to them and teach them and move on and improve. And I think that has helped me a bunch in building way better relationships with our players, because, way back in the 80s when I was coaching, you yelled a kid down, and anymore you have that relationship and you're teaching, and then you become much closer out of it. And some of my biggest wins in life is a guy coming back and visiting and sitting down and saying, man, it was just what a great time it was here. And these are the things I'm using now when I'm raising my son, and all this stuff works. And if you can impact your players that way for the long run, not just the season or the championship, then it becomes way more rewarding as a coach.
Well, and I understand there's also an academic component to dig as well. I read that your athletes can earn points for certain achievements off the field, such as getting a note of praise from a teacher, and they seem to be pretty competitive about that. Obviously, your athletes, they're all competitors. They want to win. Obviously, that's a much different kind of competition than a football game. But do you see that competitive nature come out in your players, even when we're talking about, achieving academic marks or praise from their teachers?
Yeah. So they'll compete on anything. We do rock, paper, scissors. We do a dance contest, who can hang on the pull-up bar the longest. Those are all things that they want to compete at, but we also compete in this accountability game. So all of our seniors we do a playground pick in January, and we pick the entire team, and then they give me their team name, and we're broken up in like 15 different teams within our team. And the first thing I do every single day before weights is we take roll by team. And during that time, if a kid is absent, then that's points taken away from his team. If everybody on his team is attendance, that's points for his team. If they bring me a note from a teacher, then that's points for their team. If I get an email with a negative comment from a teacher, that's points taken away from the team. If they were tardy in class, we'll have a grade check day where if you have so many A's, you get so many points, so many F's, you get so many points taken away. So it's all based on positive and negative consequences within your team. And it starts with the leader at the front of the team. So he is in charge of his guys, everybody that's on his team that he picked. And, and there's nothing like telling a kid that, you've missed 3 days, you got 2 negative comments, you missed it, taking this many points away from your team, and that guy picked you. He picked you on his team, and you're letting his entire team down. At the same time, we allow those leaders in the front to remove guys from their team. So, hey, this kid's not getting it done. He doesn't fit the character that we want on our team. He's not representing us very well, so we want him off. And then that kid has to come down and be on my team, which is Exile Island, and it's their last chance. So they can either decide to change and be a contributor in our program, or if they continue to be a distraction, then they find some other sport to do or anything else to do in life. But for us, it's all about measuring accountability and what is important to us as a program. If the things that we like in our program, you get points for your team, and the things that we don't like, points are taken away. Our team that's in first place has 38,000 points right now. They've accumulated that since January, and it's fun. It becomes, you're holding kids accountable and having fun doing it, and that is a tricky line to be or to walk when you're dealing with high school kids. Holding that line of accountability, but making it fun. We do that a lot in this game, so. It's been great for us. We didn't do it last year because of COVID. We were online, and we missed this component of our program, and it showed during the season.
One more thing I want to get into on the character side before we get into some more football talk is what we have going on here today. So today is supposed to be a practice day for your team, but you guys are doing something different instead.
Yeah. So it was based off of the Challenger program, and Charlie Williams brought it to me when I was at Cypress. And back then, we matched up our football players with special needs kids, and we had a bunch of softball games, and then we ate afterwards. We just spent a Saturday doing that. Well, when I got here to Los Alamitos, this is just such an inclusive community that we were able to do it with our kids, pre-K all the way through transition. They bring them on campus, whether elementary school or middle school or the high school kids, everybody comes to campus on one day. They get matched up. They get to walk through the big blow-up Griffin, through the tunnel. They sign in. They get matched up with the football player. And we played 3 games. So the elementary school is on one field, the middle school is on another, and the high school kids play on the varsity baseball or softball field. And we'll play about 45 minutes of a softball game where it's one-on-one matched up. So let's say I might be matched up with a young man or woman that's in a wheelchair, and the ball might be hitting our direction. That maybe one of our players will pick up the ball and put it in that kid's lap and then take it out and throw it. But be inclusive, and everybody gets to bat, and everybody's safe. And what it does for those kids and those families is they never, ever get an opportunity to play a sport. And here's an opportunity where they're in the show, they're in a game, they're on a diamond. There's fans around there. The players that don't get matched up with a one-on-one kid becomes cheer for them, and they'll say, "Let's go, Billy," and they'll just start clapping for them. It's a great environment. You'll often see the parents of those kids in the stands emotional because this is a great moment for them. What it also does is let them know about our high school. So if you have a kid in elementary school or middle school and they're getting ready at some point to come to the high school and you're not sure, you're very protective of your son or daughter, that he or she's going to be very well welcomed here, and they're going to have a good experience. So it kind of settles down the parents a little bit that, hey, Los Alamitos is really a special place. And the other thing that it does that a lot of people don't realize is what it does for our players, because sometimes high school kids can be narcissists and they only have, this tunnel vision. And if you give them some exposure and some experience that broaden their vision, then change comes and they become much more appreciative of their own talent and their own opportunities and instead of just overlooking things and taking things for granted, they become grateful. Football practice isn't always fun, and they don't always want to go out there. But maybe that kid that they partnered up with today, what would he give to go to football practice and run around like they have that opportunity? So it changes mindset, and it just gives another perspective for kids and another experience for them to grow.
Tremendous things that your program is doing here on campus, in the community, really making the difference in the lives of so many people. Now, let's talk some football.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so getting into the 2022 season, we are a couple months away from kickoff. Give our viewers a preview of what to expect and why everybody should be excited about Los Al football. And I think the conversation really starts with the dynamic group that you guys have on offense.
It's crazy. It's crazy talent out there. And, man, I don't deserve it, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to be super grateful for what we got going on the field. And I'll just put it bluntly. We had a big-time coach on campus, a recruiter, obviously, at a major university with a bunch of national championships. And he told our players after, he goes, the best practice I've ever seen. And he goes, I've seen 50 practices just since April, and he goes, I've been all over the place. And an NFL guy,
Can you tell us who it was?
It was Bill O'Brien.
Oh, it was Bill. Okay.
Yeah. And he was certainly gracious with his time, but he just had a great experience with us and the organization and the commitment and the work ethic of our kids, and then the talent on our field. You don't often get that elite talent and that elite work ethic unless you're looking at the Sunday League, because there's a reason those guys separated themselves from everybody else in college. And that's what we have on our field right now, with elite talent and incredible work ethic and an impressive group of kids. And it's really a lot of fun to be out there.
3 5-star recruits on offense. You've got your quarterback, Malachi Nelson, and wide receivers, Makai Lemon and DeAndre Moore. Speaking about those guys specifically by name, what are you looking for out of those three?
Well, so Malachi is a guy that, honestly, I just have fun with him in practice. We have a little competition and personal battle between each other that I try and strip the ball from him at any time during practice. And for whatever reason, I'm normally pretty good at it, but I was like 0 for 25 in a row, and he was just needling me to death. And then yesterday I finally got him. So I didn't celebrate too much, but he's a guy that is extremely mature. When you talk to him about the X's and O's, I feel like I'm talking to any major college offensive coordinator in the country. It's a way different level of communication. He sees the game way different than anybody else I've ever been around. And he's an extremely mature and likable kid that is incredibly gifted. And, my eyes are kind of getting used to seeing him for 4 years now, seeing some of the things that he does. And I know maybe down the road or in other programs, you just say, well, wait a minute, we used to be able to do this, and we can't do that anymore because we have a generational talent that I get the opportunity to be around. And speaking of that, I mean, the speed of Makai Lemon is just, I guess the best way to put it is just like a cheetah. Those guys are just so fast twitch. That animal's so fast twitch. And Makai is like that. I didn't know guys existed like that in high school. And he's on our field, and I was just like, I didn't know this could happen. And I get to see him every single day out of practice, as well as DeAndre. And DeAndre, just decided, hey, I'm going to run track to be a better football player. And he's on the 4x1 team that just qualified for the state finals this Friday, or state prelims this Friday, hopefully making it to the finals on Saturday. And it's a great achievement by those 4 guys to get through that. And so we miss him out there at spring practice because he's focused on track, but there's no place we'd rather have him. We know he's an outstanding football player. He's an elite level. He's incredibly competitive. And again, very mature. That's a guy that's not planning for Saturday or next year. He's planning for 15 years down the road when he's a journeyman in the NFL. And that's very unique. A lot of guys are just trying to make it to tomorrow. And he's taking steps to make sure that he is having a great NFL career.
When you have elite level talent like that on your roster, they're often coming to you already with several years of football experience, whether that be through organized team games or just individual private coaching. Does that present any sort of challenge or even benefit when they're coming into your system, the Los Alamitos system, and now you have to coach them on how to do things within this program?
Yeah, so it could go one of two ways, and our staff here is just a great group of guys, and there aren't any egos in there. Of course, we want to win and be competitive and all that great stuff, but our kids are truly first in our program. And so when those guys come in, when those guys come in, do you want them to do it your way, or do you want them to do it the way they've been successful? So you just let them play, and then we have, Proverbs 27:17 is iron sharpens iron. So we allow those guys to elevate everyone else in our program, because we want, if I'm a kid that's trying to get better, I want to go up against DeAndre, or I want to go up against Makai, or I want to watch those guys go up against each other, because you learn way more. We talked about it earlier. You learn way more from a loss or from getting beat than just dominating people. You don't learn a whole lot from that. So we let those big guys compete against each other as well as others on our team, and they are very good at helping the other kids in our program. So, we can push down whatever and say, hey, we need to do this or this or this, but if we just let them play and elevate everybody else on our team, and then if we do see something that needs to be changed or whatever, we have that relationship with them that we can talk about it and get that across. But for the most part, those guys are so special and so unique. We let them be them.
I love that term, iron sharpens iron, and it leads perfectly into something else I wanted to ask you. Obviously, with that elite talent comes pretty prominent interest from high-level college coaches and recruiters. And I think back to, have you seen the movie The Blind Side?
Yeah.
Remember when the big-time college recruiters come out to take a look at Michael Orr, and first thing they say, all right, drills, best on best. Everybody's gathered around. They're getting rowdy. Everybody really wants to give it their all. When you have big-time recruiters on campus, regardless of who they're looking at, whether it's those three guys or anybody else on the roster, is that the dynamic that takes place, that everybody wants to raise the bar?
Yeah, we like to say All-American versus All-American here. And, that raises the level on the practice field. And, again, it gets them better, but everybody around them all of a sudden perks up and takes interest, like, oh, here we go. This is going to be a great matchup right here. And it gets exciting. And then, we do it for all of our kids. We give them an opportunity at some point to showcase who they are, whether it's a freshman who is, hasn't matured yet physically, and we'll put him up against somebody that's just like him, and let those guys compete against each other. And that is equally as fun, to just watch guys compete their heart out. But it's a blessing for us as coaches and everybody else out there to be able to see kids at an elite level, that we're going to watch on TV someday, and here they are on our practice field competing at that high level. It's super amazing to watch.
Now, on the other side of that can be pretty overwhelming for a high school athlete with that much on the line. Obviously, we're talking about scholarship offers. We're talking down the road about potential multi-million-dollar NFL contracts, and these are things that they're playing for, that they're practicing for in front of these recruiters right now. As a coach, how do you help an athlete manage that pressure and focus on being the best you can be in this practice and being the best that you could be winning this play in this game?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Malachi has, personal everything around him. And honestly, I don't know that we talk about football. On game night, we do. What are you seeing? This is how they're scheming us or whatever that goes, and a game plan before that. But when it comes down to it, it's about helping these kids be kids. There's some great football programs around in high school. Sorry. And we want to develop our talent, our kids, and we want them to go at a high level, and we want them to sign that big NIL, but we also want them to be a high school kids. We want them to go to the prom. We want them to experience a basketball game, to be a fan. We want them to do all that stuff that comes with being a high school kid, because at the end of the day, at the end of their high school career, it's now a business. And it's now at 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and it's no longer, in some cases, fun. So this is the time, even though they're elite and we're developing them and for that elite level, it's still an opportunity to be a kid. And I think that's extremely important for us.
Do you find that most coaches make that a priority for their athletes?
I don't know. I just know that, I get an opportunity to travel around a lot. I don't think we have one original idea in our program. We've stolen it from somebody, somewhere. And I know the guys that are extremely successful put their kids first and their development first, just emotionally as well as physically, and it seems to work out for them, and that's what we try and do.
There is so much high-level competition. Obviously, we talked about the talent on your team and the history of this Alamitos program, but in this region, there is so much talent. If you come and play at Alamitos, whether in the non-conference season or in the postseason, you're going to compete against Servite. You're going to compete against Rancho Santa Margarita and St. John Bosco. How does that level of competition help prepare your players for the next level of play?
Yeah, you got to be in the big game before you win the big games, and to have that platform or that stage where it's on TV and everybody in the world gets a chance to see you. And the more you can be like that and the more you can compete at a high level, the more comfortable you are with that, and just allows your athleticism to take over without being paralyzed by, it could be fear, it could be the pressures outside, it could be whatever. It's just something, this is just something we do here. This is nothing new for us. We're going to show up and play like we belong here, and we do.
I'm going to ask you a cliche sports question, and I really hope you don't give me a cliche sports answer. What games do you have circled on your calendar this year?
Man, that preseason is unbelievable. It's like the SEC. And each of them all bring a unique challenge. We're going to Garces in middle of August out in Bakersfield. It's going to be probably 1,000 degrees in the dry heat. And we're going to have to overcome that, and we're a beach community here, and we have 72-degree weather all the time, and we're going to go challenge ourselves in that capacity against one of the other private schools, and they do an outstanding program. They were excellent last year, and to show up that way. And I hate to say it, but that's our first game, and that's the one we are extremely focused on. Well as, our first 3 games are really high priority games, and then we tap into 2 Trinity League schools after that. So you're looking at the SEC in the first 5 games at Los Alamitos, what it feels like anyways.
Let's talk about that second game on the calendar. You guys were recently selected to participate in the Geico Kickoff televised on ESPN down in Florida against American Heritage. That's a program that ended last season as the number 18 ranked program in the state of Florida, and they boast a top ranked recruit in the 2023 class, their wide receiver, Brandon Innes. What is the benefit to your program to be able to showcase your program, your talents on the national stage on ESPN?
Yeah, we're going from the dry heat to the swamp in Florida. And, we got that call. And again, we have some incredible talent here, and ESPN offered, it's all-inclusive, paid-for trip to go down there and play one of the best teams in the country who has the top-ranked receiver and has a giant man of a 3-year starting running back that's really, they have a dual threat in that capacity. And for us just to have that experience, to get on a plane, to fly across country, to get off the plane in Miami and bus over to Fort Lauderdale and get a chance to play an elite program like American Heritage is something that is unique. And, we have a bunch of guys that are going to go on and do that every Saturday, but then we have a bunch of guys who are not. So it's a win-win for our program. That kids that are, man, you get to be a big-time guy, you get aboard a plane, you get to fly and spend a few days there and play on ESPN. And then we have some guys that, hey, this is what it's going to be like for the next 3 or 4 years of your life, because this is what you're going to sign up for. And it's an incredible opportunity for our kids. We are really going to try our best to get every single kid in the game, no matter how the game goes, just to say, man, remember that time I was on ESPN playing ball? And have a lifelong experience for our kids. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, for a lot of these guys, this is going to be the first of several times they're playing on the national stage on ESPN. But You're exactly right. A lot of these guys are going to go on to do something entirely different after football. But I'd have to imagine that really is a lifelong memory that they'll have to say, yeah, even if it was just once, I played on national TV on ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely. DVR, when you get home,
right.
I'll play 78, here I am, I'm in the game, and I got a chance, watch this. And that's something I can't say, and we would love to have our kids be able to say that, a bunch of them, because, we're going to go down there, play our darndest to win the game. There's no 2 ways about it. And we want to put our kids in a safe environment when they get in the game. But we also see the bigger picture of it too, and give kids opportunity to have a lifelong experience documented on TV.
So like most programs in this area, Los Alamitos does have a very strong NFL pedigree. Most recently, you guys had Alex Redmond. He had an NFL career from 2017 to 2020. The biggest names that viewers would probably recognize are Orlando Scandrick and Antoine Kaysen. Orlando actually coached here last year. What was that experience like?
That was amazing because you get an opportunity to see what it was like really in the NFL and some of the things in the way that they practiced and emphasized that we weren't necessarily doing. He brought, and we were able to incorporate that into our practice. And we try and pick everybody's brain that comes through. And if we can get a guy with his pedigree and 13 years or whatever it was playing in the NFL, I mean, he's going to be a big contributor to some of the stuff that we're able to do on our practice field with elite type talent. So it was awesome to pick his brain and have his input. And then Antoine Kaysen is just an incredible man. He has everything in perspective as far as he wants to do the best thing. Super humble. He wants to help kids any way that he can. He's doing it all for the right reasons. And he's very involved in our program, and we're grateful that he's the man that he is, and that he's a Griffin, and he's giving back to our school.
Well, and you had a special moment with Antoine Kaysen back in 2018 when he presented you with the High School Coach of the Week award as presented by the Chargers. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we came off a win against Long Beach Poly, which is, unbelievable. So anytime that you can have that, and then the next week get recognized by Antoine Kaysen and the Chargers. And, the Chargers have done an amazing job in reaching out in the grassroots program, and they are very involved. Not just in our program, but all the high schools around in the community have done an excellent job, and Anton's a big part of that. So to receive that recognition from him before a game was a pretty special moment.
Getting back to Orlando, that's the case of another guy who is a local guy, born in Torrance, and coming back here, that's just another point to what you prioritize is pride in the community. How cool was that to have him back here as a local guy, giving back to the community?
Yeah, when you walk into the weight room here, and Coach Barnes has done a phenomenal job of putting pictures up all around the weight room of former great players, and to have them roll through here, whether it's Orlando or there's a bunch of them that are coaching in college now. And they come through here as recruiters, and they go into the weight room and they look, and they're kind of nostalgic about things. And it's pretty neat to see the development of our kids in this community over the years have gone on to do great things and always coming back.
And when he moved on from here, he is now onto his first head coaching position at St. Bernard in Los Angeles. And, that speaks to something else. It's not just players that you're developing here, it's coaches as well. So how much of a point of pride is that for you when somebody in your coaching tree goes on to get that first head job?
Well, Orlando doesn't need my help, that's for sure. I mean, he's got it figured out, and he's had an incredible experience, not just as an athlete, but his relationship that he's had with coaches over the years. And I'm super excited for him to go down there. And, we started about taking it over from a grassroots program or from the ground up, and that's what they're doing. Basically, they didn't have a team last year. It's kind of like the death penalty. And he's stepping into an incredible challenge, and one that he can build his own program. And that's a great opportunity for him, and I'm super excited for him. I can't wait to see how it works out.
Getting back to the present day and the elite talent that you have on this team, that's the NFL legacy of the past here at Los Alamitos. You've got a handful of guys on this team who sure look every bit the part of a first-round NFL draft pick. Obviously, we're a few years away from that, but how has Los Alamitos become, seemingly in recent years, much, much more of a destination for that high-profile talent?
Well, again, with social media today, everybody knows everybody. Whether they're kids in high school in Virginia or one in Washington, D.C. or Washington State, they all seem to know each other, and they all go to elite camps, and they compete, and they develop relationships and friendships. And then with Malachi and his talent that he has, his elite talent, and the type of kid that he is, there's a lot of guys that just want to be around him. So it's amazing to see families make that commitment to their sons to be around a kid like Malachi and be on a team that he is leading, to move into the community and be a part of it and have an opportunity to play football with a kid like Malachi Nelson. I mean, back in the day when Patrick Mahomes was a guy, I'm sure he's an elite high school guy and guys wanted to play with him. And that's what we're experiencing here. Elite guys attract elite guys, the guys that truly want to get better, and iron sharpens iron. And they're in that program where they're going to get developed for when we think that our guys, when they step on a college practice field, are not going to be overwhelmed or even lost. We think they're going to excel because we try and practice in that format now, and we try and run high-level schemes. And when they walk into a field, they've been doing it for 3 or 4 years here, and they get into, it might be USC, and they feel very comfortable. And I think that attracts a lot of people.
And in addition to what they do during their time at Alamitos, having those players excel here and then hopefully go on to have highly successful college careers and even NFL careers, what does that do for your ability to keep that talent pipeline flowing once the players that you're recruiting right now see, okay, well, if I go to Alamitos, right, this is what I have the potential to become?
Yeah, so Malachi's popped the lid off public schools. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks that you have to go to private schools to get that big-time recognition. And then when he became the Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of California, and he was number 2 in the country in that recognition as a sophomore, people recognize that, oh, okay, there's some other schools that if you're good enough, they'll find you, talking about the media or any recognition. And I think that put a lot more perspective, not just here at our school, but at the other public schools where you can get recognized. If you ball out and you do some great things, that you don't have to be at the super competitive schools in the Trinity League to receive that recognition. You can stay home and still get recognized the way that Malachi has.
Before we wrap up today's show, the one question I want to leave with is, regardless of what athlete we're talking about, regardless of their status as a prospect, whether they're going to play on Saturdays, Sundays, or never again after they leave here, what's the most important thing that you want one of your players to take away from this program and their time being coached by you?
It's going to sound super silly, but we meet with our seniors. We read a book called The Winner's Manuals for the Game of Life, written by Jim Trestles. And then every Wednesday we meet and go over a chapter page by page. And there's some questions in the back that give some personal questions. And we get to learn each other or know each other on a much deeper level and learn a lot about each other. And what we did as an activity the other day before Mother's Day is we all took out a note and wrote a personal thank you note to their mom and something specific that their mom has done for them in their life. And for us, man, kids are going to play football. They're going to be successful. They're going to have that. But if they can start opening up their eyes and broadening their horizon and seeing things differently by recognizing mom, who's there every single day of their life and sometimes take it for granted with a note, and then see the reaction of mom when she reads the note. And we're 100% moms cried when we delivered the note to them on Mother's Day. So understand your platform, make a difference in somebody else's life is what I want our guys to get from our program.
Beautiful. Head Coach Ray Fenton, thank you so much for joining the program. Before we go, anything you want to shout out?
Oh, man, I appreciate you guys having us. Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
And we enjoyed having you, and we appreciate all of our viewers for tuning in as well. Coach Fenton and the Los Alamitos football program, we wish you the best of luck this upcoming 2022 season. And all of you, we will see you next time on the Cannon Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow on Instagram at Cannon Sports, TikTok at Cannon Sports Official, and of course, cannonsports.com for all your sporting goods needs.